Okay, fifth grade, I am going to teach you a little bit more about nonfiction books using this book called Snakebite. One thing that I notice right away about this book that gives me a clue that it might be a nonfiction book is this picture of a snake. This isn't an illustration and it's a picture, which means it's of a real thing that actually exists. So we have our title, we have our real picture, and whenever I open the book, we are going to see our title page. And the title page has a little bit of information on it, such as the title, the author, which the author of this book's name is Tom Jackson, another picture that lets us know that this may be a nonfiction book. And some nonfiction books have the year that it was published down here at the bottom. This one has the publishing company and some information on how to find more texts by this publishing company. But the year that it was published is on this next page. That is still kind of part of the title page. And then if we look all the way down here in this teeny tiny text, it says that it was published in 1972. That helps us form opinions on if this text is still credible, since this is 2021 and 1972 was quite a few years ago. So we are going to move on to the table of contents page. In this book, you can see that it just says contents, but in nonfiction books, this is the table of contents page. This page helps us it's at the very beginning of the book, and it helps us look through some information that might help us get information quicker if we need it. So say I was curious about cures for snake bites. I could go down here and I see snake bite cures. Starts on page 24. So I'm gonna open my book. I went a little bit too far. There's page 24, and we can see that it says snakebite cures. And that gets us information really fast, and it gives us clues as to where to look in the book. So let's go back to the table of contents page, and now I am curious about fangs. I see that fangs starts on page 6, which is the next page. We can see right here that there is a heading. And the heading was the same as the line in the table of contents that told us that fangs was going to be on page 6. So our table of contents led us to this title on this page. So let's go back to that table of contents and reference it again. So this time I'm curious about killer snakes. And that starts on page 4. So I'm going to flip the page. Yep, that's the next page, page 4. We have another heading. And then under that heading, we have a text box. And the text box is a little bit different from like a paragraph down here that you guys see. In the text box, it pops out some information and just brings more awareness to say, hey, this might be some really good information that you might need to know. Another thing I want to point out in this text box is that this word, victims, it looks a little bit different from the other words. It's what we call bolded. An author may make words bolded because they want you as a nonfiction reader to know that, hey, this is a really important word. You really need to know this. Also, with that bolded word, I want to show you guys something else that nonfiction texts have. I'm going to flip all the way, almost all the way to the back. We'll get to that page in a minute. To this page. In nonfiction books, this page is usually labeled with the title of glossary. Now, in a glossary, you guys can find, as nonfiction readers, can find definitions to those bolded words. Let's see, let's flip back to page 4. What was that bolded word that we saw on page 4? Victims. We can flip back to the glossary if we might not know what it is, and there's a definition down there. So the definition of victim is a person or animal who is hurt or killed. Now, this glossary has more than just that word victim in it, and I bet you if we read through the whole book, all of the words that are bolded throughout this whole book are going to show up in this glossary because the author has already showed you that they are important words that we need to know. Now, the very last thing that I want to teach you today to show you as a feature of a nonfiction text, to show you as readers of nonfiction text, is the index. The index helps us if we need to find information super quickly. So say you're so curious about specifically Indian cobras. I know that Indian starts with I. So the index is always going to be in alphabetical order. So I know that Indian cobra starts with I. So I come down here to the I and I find Indian cobras. This tells me that there might be information, that there is going to be information about Indian cobras on page 4, 10, and 24. So let's check that out. Page 24 is the closest. So here we go. Let me see if I can find, oh, look, it's labeled. There's a label on there to tell us that this is a picture of an Indian cobra. The index and the glossary are super, super helpful tools in nonfiction texts. They're going to be in every nonfiction text you read. They're super important tools that help us as readers understand our readings a little bit better.